Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to discuss Hamlet, Soliloquy 3, and we'll consider uh, first part of it. Uh, let's start it. First, I will discuss the situation where this soliloquy appears. Hamlet is alone and burdened by grief, disappointment, and uncertainty. His father has been murdered. His mother has married Claudius, his uncle, as well as the murderer of his father, and he is struggling with the responsibility of revenge. Unlike the previous soliloquy, where he attacked himself for inaction, here he moves beyond his personal circumstances and reflects on a universal human problem, whether it is better to continue living despite suffering or to escape life's troubles through death. This soliloquy is a turning point where Hamlet shifts from revenge to philosophy. He examines the value of life and death. He explores why human beings endure suffering. He discovers that fear of the unknown prevents action. Now let's come to the text, and we are going to discuss it line by line. It's a very famous one. So, to be or not to be, that is the question. Hamlet asked whether it is better to continue living or to stop existing altogether. He's questioning the value of life itself. Life versus death becomes the central debate of the soliloquy. What kind of emotional state he has? He is uncertain, he is reflexive, and he is in existential doubt. Second one is whether this nobler in the mind to suffer. Hamlet wonders whether it is more honorable to endure suffering patiently. The word nobler means morally superior, honorable, and the word suffer means to endure hardship. He asks whether true courage lies in accepting pain. Endurance may be a form of heroism. This is the key idea in this line. Hamlet is basically he's having moral questioning, and he is also reflecting intellectually. Line 3, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Life's hardships are compared to weapons attacking a person. Slings and arrows. Here it means troubles and misfortunes, fortune, fate, or destiny. Human beings are constantly wounded by circumstances beyond their control. And the key idea in this line is that life is presented as a battlefield. He's feeling victimized here, as well as Hamlet is frustrated here. He's showing frustration. Fourth one is, or to take arms against a sea of troubles. What does it mean? Hamlet imagines fighting back against life's difficulties. When he says take arms, it means to fight. Sea of troubles means endless problems. So The alternative to suffering is resistance. The key idea in this line is, should we endure pain or fight against it? Here, in this line, Hamlet is defiant and he is also determined. He's showing defiance and determination here. Line 5. And by opposing and them to die to sleep, Hamlet suggests that death may end all suffering. He compares death to sleep. Death appears to be a peaceful escape that seems to offer relief from life's struggle. That is the key idea of this line. How he's feeling emotionally here, he's hoping for escape. And he looks tired. He's showing weariness. Then no more, and by asleep to say we end. That appears to bring a final end to suffering. Its meaning is that all pain might disappear through death. The key idea of this line is that death is imagined as complete rest. How emotionally he feels here in this line, that he is longing for peace. He wants temporary comfort. So the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks, line number 7. Hamlet refers to emotional pain and countless hardships. Heartache means emotional suffering, and natural shocks means unavoidable troubles. So its meaning is that human life is filled with pain. The key idea in line number 7 is that suffering is an inevitable part of existence. Here, in this line, it seems that Hamlet is sad as well as tired, exhausted. So now let's move to the next page. Yes. That flesh is heir to tastes a consummation. All human beings inherit suffering simply because they are human. If you see flesh, meaning here is humanity. Heir to means naturally destined to receive. Consummation means completion or fulfillment. So, what does this line mean? Death seems to provide a perfect end to suffering, and the key idea is mortality appears to solve the problems of existence. Emotional state, if you see here, he's accepting the idea and he has desires for release. Devoutly to be wished to die to sleep. Hamlet says, such an ending is something people deeply desire. Death seems attractive because it promises peace. Escape from suffering appears desirable. He's hoping something here, and he has some kind of temptation that he may end in peace. That is his temptation now. Line 10 is, to sleep, perchance to dream. Hey, there's the rub. A problem suddenly appears. If death is like sleep, then it may also contain dreams. Rub means difficulty or obstacle. So, what does this line may mean? It means death may not be as peaceful as it seems. The unknown after death creates uncertainty. Now here see how in every line his emotions are changing. Now he's doubting that that will be peaceful or not, and he is showing anxiety. Line 11, for in that sleep of death, what dreams may come? Hamlet wonders what experiences await after death. Nobody knows what happens beyond the grave. So the key idea here is fear begins to replace hope. Now he's moving towards fear. First he was hopeful, but now he's moving towards fear. He's becoming fearful. He's curious. He has fear. What will happen? He's not sure. He's not certain. When we have shuffled off this mortal coil, Hamlet refers to leaving behind earthly life. Mortal coil means the confusion, struggle, and burden of life. It means death frees people from worldly troubles. So life is portrayed as chaotic and burdensome. Now he's feeling exhausted here. Line 13 is, must give us pause. There is the respect. The uncertainty of death forces people to stop and think. Respect means here consideration. Fear of the unknown creates hesitation. When you don't know what's going to come, what's coming next, obviously you feel hesitation. So the key idea of this line is that thought prevents decisive action. The more you think, the more you become inactive. That is a problem of Hamlet. Now he is cautious and he is feeling hesitation. That makes calamity of so long life. People continue enduring life's misery because they fear what comes after death. Calamity is suffering and hardship. It means the fear of the unknown makes people tolerate pain. Key idea is fear prolongs suffering. So Hamlet's realization is that life contains pain. Death may offer escape, but the uncertainty of the afterlife is frightening. Therefore, people continue living not because life is pleasant, but because the unknown is more terrifying than suffering itself. That is very important, isn't it? So, here we have finished explaining the lines. Now come towards techniques. What kind of techniques I use here? Number one is antithesis, central structural technique. To be or not to be. Antithesis places two completely opposite ideas side by side. Here, to be means existence, life, and not to be means non-existence or death. Hamlet structures the entire soliloquy around this opposition. It creates immediate tension. It establishes the central debate. It forces the audience to consider both possibilities. Shakespeare produces the complexity of human existence to a stark binary choice. The entire soliloquy grows from this opposition between life and death. Next one is philosophical questioning. There are questions which are very philosophical. To be or not to be, that is the question, whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer. Hamlet frames his thoughts as philosophical questions rather than statements. He explores possibilities instead of reaching conclusions. It creates intellectual depth. It reveals Hamlet's reflective nature. it draws audience into the debate. Hamlet approaches suffering as a thinker rather than a warrior. His instinct is always analysis before action. Fourth one is extended metaphor, that is death as sleep. To die, to sleep, perchance to dream in the sleep of death, in that sleep of death. Throughout the passage, Hamlet repeatedly compares death to sleep. Initially, sleep is peace, later, sleep is dreams, and then dreams are uncertain. Dreams are equivalent to uncertainty. It makes death appear confronting, comforting. Then gradually it introduces fear. Then it creates a progression of thought. The metaphor collapses under its own logic. What begins as a comforting image becomes frightening once Hamlet considers the possibility of dreams after death. Fourth one is military imagery. The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune to take arms against a sea of troubles. Life's problems are described through images of warfare. Fortune attacks humanity, humanity fights back, humans fight back. So, this imagery makes suffering seem violent. It portrays life as a battlefield. It intensifies conflict. Shakespeare presents existence as a continual struggle against hostile forces beyond human control. The next one is metaphor. Sea of Troubles is a metaphor. So, problems are compared to a vast ocean. Problems are like an ocean that is very, very vast. A sea is deep, it is endless, it is dangerous, it is difficult to overcome. So, it emphasizes the magnitude of suffering, as well as it creates a sense of helplessness. The metaphor suggests that human beings can never fully conquer life's difficulties. Next one is euphemism. To die, to sleep. It is a euphemism. Death is described indirectly through the gentler image of sleep. It softens the harshness of death. It makes death appear attractive. Hamlet initially tries to domesticate death by giving it a familiar and comforting form. Seventh one is imagery, the heartache, the thousand natural shocks, and mortal coil. All these are imageries. Shakespeare creates a vivid image of suffering. Headache is emotional pain, natural shocks is life's hardships, mortal coil is confusion and struggle of earthly existence. So these all imageries make abstract suffering concrete. They allow audience to visualize human pain. Life is presented as both physically and psychologically burdensome. Now, eighth one is repetition. To die, to sleep, it is repeated. Important ideas are repeated several times. So this repetition reinforces Hamlet's obsession with death, and it mimics the circular movement of his thoughts. Hamlet continually revisits the same idea without reaching certainty. It reflects his habitual indecisiveness. He's unable to decide. Just to decide, it's his habit, it's become his nature. Next one is pause and interruption. There's the rub. The phrase interrupts Hamlet's argument. Just as death seems attractive, a problem suddenly appears. It marks a turning point. It creates dramatic tension. It reveals uncertainty. The entire soliloquy changes direction at this moment. Fear enters the discussion. Next one is symbolism. Dream. Dreams symbolize the unknown experiences that may follow death. This symbolism creates mystery. This symbolism introduces fear of the afterlife. The dream becomes a symbol of humanity's inability to know what lies beyond death. So after these 10 techniques, we are going to talk about themes. Life versus death, that is the central theme. The entire soliloquy revolves around a comparison between living and dying. Hamlet examines advantages of life as well as advantages of death. This is one of literature's most profound explorations of mortality. The question is not merely Hamlet's problem, it is humanity's problem. Now, human suffering. Life is portrayed as a condition filled with heartache, misfortune, pain, hardship. Suffering appears unavoidable. Shakespeare presents suffering as a universal part of existence rather than an individual tragedy. Third one is fear of the unknown. Death seems attractive until Hamlet considers what dreams may come. So the uncertainty of the afterlife becomes terrifying. Human beings often tolerate known suffering because they fear unknown possibilities more. Next one is thought versus action. Hamlet continually analyzes rather than decides. He questions life, death, suffering, morality. So thinking delays action. We come to know Hamlet's intellect becomes an obstacle to decisive behavior. He keeps thinking, and thinking, not taking any action. Next one is mortality. The soliloquy repeatedly confronts human death. Death is presented as the unavoidable destination of all people. Shakespeare explores not simply death itself, but humanity's psychological response to death. Then we have courage and endurance. Hamlet asks whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer. This passage questions what true bravery means. Endurance may require more courage than rebellion. Last one, seventh one is human consciousness. Unlike animals, humans think about life, think about death, they think about consequences, they think about morality. So we can conclude that consciousness creates anxiety. The ability to think deeply becomes both humanity's greatest gift and its greatest burden. It is blessing as well as curse. So if you see, this passage is not simply but Hamlet wanting to die. It is about the universal human condition. Human beings suffer. Death appears to offer escape. But fear of the unknown after death creates hesitation. Therefore, people continue living despite pain. Shakespeare's ultimate insight is that humans are trapped between suffering and uncertainty. Life may be painful, but the mystery of death is even more frightening. That is why the soliloquy remains one of the greatest philosophical reflections in world literature. So let me critically analyze it in 2 or 3 paragraphs. This passage is one of the most profound philosophical moments in the play because it shifts the focus from Hamlet's personal revenge plot to a universal meditation on human existence. Hamlet is no longer thinking about Claudius or political corruption. Instead, he's questioning whether life itself is worth enduring. Shakespeare uses this soliloquy to elevate Hamlet from an individual character into a representative of the human condition, where suffering, fear, or uncertainty define existence. A key critical idea in the passage is that Hamlet's paralysis is not physical weakness but intellectual overload. He's capable of imagining every possible consequence of action and inaction, which leads him into a cycle of endless reasoning. The comparison between life as suffering and death as sleep initially suggests that escape from pain is possible. But this hope lapses when Hamlet produces the fear of what dreams may come. At this moment, Shakespeare shows how human thought can undermine itself. Reason begins to generate fear instead of clarity, and certainty becomes impossible. Ultimately, the soliloquy reveals Shakespeare's deeper philosophical vision. Human beings endure suffering not because life is satisfactory, but because the unknown nature of death is even more terrifying. This creates a tragic paradox. Existence is painful, yet non existence is uncertain. Hamlet becomes the embodiment of this condition. His inability to act is not simply indecision, but a reflection of human consciousness itself, which is always aware of pain, consequence, and uncertainty all at once. I hope you have understood it. If you have questions, you can ask me. Thank you for watching.